Hello everyone, and welcome to our second quarterly town hall and Q&A and Facebook Live. I'm Elizabeth Fagan, I'm your mayor, and I am here with Council President Mr. Mike McTernan.
Hello everybody, thanks for tuning in this evening. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, this will be fun. So right now we do have some pre-submitted questions which we will go through, and then we will accept questions in the chat. So we welcome you to submit questions as we talk. If there's something that comes up, obviously, that we say, you can ask further questions or further clarification. If we don't get to all of the questions, we always are available by email. You can set up an appointment with us. You can shoot us an email and ask questions. You can always go through our communications office and ask questions that way as well. So, all right, should we get started?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I think it's great. We're going to try and get all the questions.
Yes,
done, right?
yeah, of course.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And but again, if you can, we are very reachable, and I love talking to people face to face versus this thing. So yeah,
We'll just pretend we're talking face to face.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So the first question that was submitted was, I'm concerned about the noise and pollution caused by gas-powered leaf blowers. There have been discussions around restricting these at certain times in the past. Is that still on the table? And if not, how can we restart the discussion? Is there a way to incentivize electric-powered leaf blowers instead?
Yeah, I know this was a big topic of conversation over COVID, right? And the council at the time did institute a leaf blower or gas leaf blower ban. It was made to be like a test period, from my understanding. I wasn't on council at the time. And Sally, it was I think a well-intentioned idea, but there were a lot of negative consequences, such as, it's expensive for people to switch out this equipment. These people employ real people who, require, a job. And I think, given the feedback, council at the time decided to let the ordinance lapse. Look, these things are noisy. They just are. Electric leaf blowers are not the most quiet thing either. But I do understand it. They're a couple of decibels lower. So would that be a better world? I guess. But, and I think there is something to be said for, unintended consequences. We've seen what happened at the time. It was an experiment. And, until someone can convince me that the technology and the cost differential between electric versus the gas is something that these our residents have to pay, are paying these people, and two, is this going to cost jobs? If people can convince me of that, then I think we certainly want to look at it. But I don't think that that's the case right now. I will say, I'm a big believer in technology getting better, and electric leaf blowers are going to get more efficient. Battery technology is getting more efficient all the time. And there will become a time where I think that this problem will begin to mitigate itself. At least that's my hope.
Thank you. I tend to agree with what you said. Just to reiterate one of the things you said, which was, I think the transition, to ask a small business to transition to something so readily as it was when they did the trial last time, it was sort of an overnight switch, and I think that's a big ask for a small business. So I think that was part of the reason it was a problem, and I think that it's going to be a challenge to create an on-ramp that is going to be sort of acceptable and digestible for small businesses and even for homeowners.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So somebody asked, I'm interested in the status of the site of the old firehouse. Please summarize the current plan for the marketing and sale and your expected timing for the various steps.
Well, I'm glad somebody asked this question.
We talk about it a lot.
We do talk about it a lot. And every time I drive by it, I'm like, oh,
look at that.
There's the old firehouse there. So for those who aren't deep in the minutia of the firehouse, there actually is 4 lots, separate parcels on that piece of property. The city, most people don't realize this, owned 3 of them. There was a 4th lot that kind of split the property we refer to it as the infamous finger lot, okay, because it's long and thin. We have worked with the owner of that property and have an agreement for the city to acquire it. And we thought it was very, very important. We talked to our land use people. We've had, conversations with real estate people who were like, you can't sell non-contiguous property. You just won't get value for it. So we really thought it was very important to get control of the property, all 4 lot pieces. We are looking to, had to do some survey work to refile a new deed with the contiguous property. That should be done sometime this summer. Once that happens, I think we're going to go out to bid, hopefully, for a broker, to begin to proactively market the 4 contiguous lots.
As one parcel.
Yeah.
The other piece that is going on right now, not to forget to mention, is the appraisal is being updated, and that is in preparation of going out to auction. But so the first we have to do those couple of things, and then we get a broker, and then the broker can prepare the auction. Right. So.
Yeah. The last thing I would add around that is we are going to also be in the process of, I'm going to use the term, hardening the zoning. The firehouse is part of our round 4 affordable housing plan, which is a whole other kettle of worms. We'll see if there's any questions about that. But the council last year passed an overlay zone that will give the opportunity for residential with a minimum amount of affordable housing that would be associated with any development there. We're going to harden the zoning so that anyone who buys the property, that will be the zoning that they'll have to deal with. It won't be optional. So that's going to be happening through the planning board over the next couple of months as well.
Great. And timeline was, we sort of expect to go out to auction probably sometime in the mid to late fall, I think, is the likelihood.
Correct.
So,
yep.
Okay, great. This one is near and dear to, I know, many people's hearts. When will PSE&G stop chopping up our streets, and will they be repaved when the work is done?
Oh boy.
You got to call PSE&G.
Yeah. Well, here's one of our. So we live in a historic town. It's one of the beauty.
That means old, right? Is that
That's another word for it. It means it's old. And part of being old means it has old infrastructure. And so a lot of the pipes and, not just the gas lines, but the water lines and things like that are just old. And, PSE&G has a program that they're looking to replace and update infrastructure. And infrastructure is a word that gets bandied about a lot. You can just watch it deteriorate, or you can go and do something about it. And the one thing, but I completely get it. They did it. They're doing a project at the bottom of my street on Springfield right now, and I'm like, when are they going to be done? And it rips the street up and all that kind of stuff. One of the things, though, and I think this is right, Madam Mayor, is when they do it, part of when they do it, they have to pave the street.
Right. So that's an agreement that we as the city have with, and so it's with PSE&G, but also with New Jersey American Water, and both of those utilities are actually replacing infrastructure currently, and they're trying, and we are trying as a city to encourage them to collaborate and coordinate those efforts so that they're not, on Springfield Avenue one month and then they go away and the water company comes in. So PSE&G is not here for 1 month, and then 6 months later we've got American Water. It does happen. They have emergencies and so forth.
Right.
So to the best of their ability, they are trying to coordinate those efforts so that the street isn't dug up for a month and then put back together and then dug up another 6 months later. And then as far as repaving, we've seen this, and something that I sort of have learned in the last 2 years, is that when they do dig a trench, which is what they do, they fill it, and they do that temporarily because that trench will settle. And so if they repave immediately, they'll end up with a dip in the road pretty quickly. So so they do have to, there's a certain amount of time after which they are even willing to repave. But they are required to repave, and again, depending on which utility is responsible, they will come back and do it when it's appropriately timed.
And the other thing, part of what local government does is also repave roads.
Right.
We get wear and tear on all our roads throughout Summit, and if you look at our capital budget, a big chunk of it is to do road projects.
Right.
What we try to do, and we've been very successful at it, doesn't always work out this way, is to talk to the utilities, find out what's on their plan,
Right.
because if we can get the utilities to, they got to do the infrastructure anyways, and if they're going to repave a road,
Right.
that takes it off our budget. It's a way that we can save money. Now, sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, but that's the plan, because these road projects cost the taxpayer, they can be upwards of $1 million+. And to get the utility to do it as part of their infrastructure project is smart, and it also keeps our capital budget down.
Great. Okay, so this one is, I think, something we both have talked a lot about. Very happy to hear that Summit is considering a Wait Until 8th program for cell phones and students. There's so much data linking social media to teenage depression and worse. And what exactly is the program you're considering, and where are you in terms of rollout? And so you can start, but I'll definitely jump in on this.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I'm a teacher in my real life, and I've seen firsthand it's like a cumulative effect. And kids that are going through high school now are much more affected by phones than they were 5 or 6 years ago. And it's not a shock. The kids who are in high school now have never been a life without a smartphone in their homes and such. And it's very, very well documented. We don't have to talk about it, but about how bad these devices are for students. And you as a doctor, you can see it. I mean, it's depression, it's self-hurt, anxiety.
It's isolation. I mean, because you're not actually interacting like this. I mean, I know we're talking to a screen, but face-to-face contact is something that humans crave. So, so this Wait Until 8th is not our initiative. So just to be clear, some of you may have heard about it. It's actually a really cool grassroots movement. We were approached by some Summit moms to let us know about it. It's a national movement that they sort of picked up and started to sow some seeds in Summit. And Mike and I both kind of felt really strongly that this was something we were excited about. We feel that it's important. It's a topic that our community could be kind of a trendsetter in. And so, we've met with some really dynamo ladies in town. Yeah. We have a lot of those, of course, but this particular group, has started this conversation, and they've brought it to the Board of Education, and so they're making inroads. They did a screening of Screenagers, which is a movie that talks about some of the detriments of starting smartphone use. And they're not saying don't ever give your kid a phone, and they're not saying that watches that for communication for when your kid walks uptown or whatever. They're not saying that that's a problem so much, or that you shouldn't do that. But the ask is think as a family about maybe delaying smartphone use until the end of 8th grade, and that would significantly improve mental health outcomes in this group of kids.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think there's any question that these large social media companies, they spend billions of dollars to get you to click on stuff. I mean, I struggle with it.
Yep.
And I'm a fully functioning adult, at least sometimes.
I'll ask your wife about that.
Yeah, kids have no chance.
Yes,
no chance. They target those dopamine receptors, and they just want to stay on these things. And I think it's like these women who are promoting this. It's such a cool concept because you can think about it in two ways. And New York City has just instituted a ban on cell phones in schools. You can ban stuff. Banning stuff, ways to get around it, and you can only do that at certain times of the day. We have, at my school, we have a ban on bringing phones to school or using them during school. I think it's great, but it's better if they don't have it regardless. And what this program really does, it's all about grassroots. And it's making it so that kids who, you know, if you get enough people and people who sign up not to have the smartphones, you can have a flip phone.
Right.
Text your kid, you know, so you know where they are or whatever. Of course, there's a big safety component to that. But you want to make it so the kids who don't have smartphones are the majority.
Right.
So it's cool
to not have
a phone.
Right.
It's cool to be able to like hang out with a group that aren't like, you know, looking TikTok videos the entire time. And that's, I think, what the goal is, to get a critical mass of our residents who sign on to this. And then, you know, it's the kids who have the smartphones that sadly for them may go to their parents and say, you know, someone's having a sleepover, I wasn't invited, I think it might be because I have a phone. You know, I hate that the poor kid doesn't get invited to a sleepover, but how great would that if he asked to like get me a flip phone?
Yeah, get rid of this.
It would be awesome.
Yeah, and it's, you know, there are other devices. I mean, not just a flip phone. I mean, that's what we started with when we started with cell phones. But there are watches that only allow kids to communicate with certain numbers. There are phones that are, you know, just they don't allow apps and social media platforms and things like that. They're really just kind of for texting and, you know, and communication directly. And so, you know, your kid can still be fairly independent, because I think that is often the argument I hear. Well, I need to be able to let my kid grow and spread their wings a little bit, but I'm uncomfortable with not being able to kind of contact them or have them contact me in an emergency or whatever it is.
You want to talk a little bit about what the city's doing to promote this with some of our programming?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things that happened out of one of the conversations that we had with this group of women was that they had an idea. I think it was their idea. I'm going to give them credit regardless, about the Department of Community Programs having cell phone free programming after school. So this past winter, the programs that are held at the rec center for students after school were cell phone free. And I think some of the youth basketball, the rec basketball program as well, was if they, you know, kids were at practice, you know, they were not to have their phones. And my understanding is that it was very well received. There was not a lot of pushback at all. And again, you know, there's an adult in the room, so there's also, when you're in a facility like the rec center, there are still those old-fashioned phones that plug into the wall.
Yes.
And you know, there are adults in the room that have access to cell phones as well. So, so I think that was well received. I think there were some other ideas that were spitballing.
One screen on the green.
One screen on the green is an idea,
like that,
maybe.
Yeah.
So we're talking about that. And as I sort of mentioned before, the Board of Ed is considering some policy changes. I don't know the specifics. I just know that it's being a topic of conversation, and you know, different policies for different grade levels. So elementary different from middle school, different from high school potentially. But I think it's a really important conversation for us to have as a community, because I know that the impact could be really, really incredible, and I think I'd be really proud to be a part of a community that kind of took a stance on something that is so it can be catastrophic for kids and for families, and you know.
No, and I think of our town. We have so many bright people. We do so many amazing things as a community. I just think if we could be a community that kind of leads with this, oh my gosh, it would be a model for others. I think if people would look, if they can do it, we can do it. And you know, I actually envision a time where, you know, real estate brokers would market to incoming buyers that, hey, we've got this policy. Your kids will not be shunned if they don't have a cell phone. It's great for your kids' mental health, their well-being, their attention, you know, everything. And but you know, this is starting. And I would say if you want to get involved, you know, reach out. It's wait until 8, or you can reach out, I think, through maybe your school's PTAs. we're
Maybe
hoping
coming in
that
the fall.
that'll be coming in the fall, and how to get involved and sign up. So it's a really exciting initiative.
And if you, I don't know, is the screenagers, is that available sort of commercially, or I'm not sure about that, but if you have the opportunity and you didn't get to see it, it's fairly short. It's not, it's not a 3-hour movie, but it really is impactful. And there's a younger, like, kids version, and then there's an adult version as well. So
yeah, and there's loads of, like I said, loads of research online.
Research,
what's the book that came out a year or so ago?
Oh goodness.
We'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, so we can put it,
Yeah.
or we'll find a way.
Right.
Find a way to let
Somewhere
you know.
we'll let you know. Okay.
All right. Okay. So next question is, anecdotally, it feels like crime is down in Summit. Can you share the statistics with us? And if crime is actually down, to what do you attribute it?
Ah.
Ha.
So a great question. And so whoever wrote this question, I would say your feel is correct. We've got a bunch of statistics here just to be prepared. It is down quite a bit. And I know, Madam Mayor, you gave a great interview in the TAP the other day that highlighted a lot of this. I don't know if you want to go through some of the highlights.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Chief Peters gave us a really good synopsis of, year over year trends from January, so 6 months from January to June, comparing this year to the prior 2 years. And certainly, yes, statistics show that crime is down in Summit. To what do we attribute those things? Technology, our LPRs, our drone, our, what else do we have? Blanking on, there's other things that we have, but, and then things like manpower. We have an increase in the table of organization in our police department. We have incredible police officers. They are working their tails off, and they are incredibly collaborative. Our detective bureau has been diligent in tracking down any vehicle that has been stolen and recovering those within 24 hours. I think most of them are recovered. So these are things that, become deterrents for criminals too. So, sort of having our community be a place where you don't really want to come here to steal a car, because there's reasons why people are starting to say, maybe we shouldn't go there. We've got police officers that are paying attention. We've got residents that are paying attention. So thank you to residents for locking your doors and locking your cars. And
yeah, that's a really good point. I know, this has been, people have been saying this for years, like, please help.
Right.
Take your key fobs in and things like
are.
that. And people are, which is great, because you don't want to have people think, oh, Summit's a soft target.
Right.
And I think what you mentioned is all these other things that have made Summit something that, bad guys may think twice about coming here, because we have been very, very proactive on it. And, that word gets out. The word gets out when Summit Police will follow up on a stolen vehicle and get into Newark or Elizabeth or, to the port where a lot of these go, and will look to apprehend the bad guys down there.
Right.
There's a lot of police departments that don't do that.
Right.
And our police department is now doing that, and I give so much credit to Chief Peters and his team. They're doing an amazing job. But it's not a one size fits all. They're
Right.
Manpower, technology. I know the council passed an ordinance, the Resident Protection Act, so it's the law too. And people say, oh, how much teeth does that law have? Well, it has more than if you don't.
That's right, exactly.
And it has more than other towns do.
Right.
And again, it sends a signal that we're not going to accept the status quo. And then the numbers kind of show it. You look at just a couple of examples: burglaries and attempted burglaries to motor vehicles. In 2023, from the first half of the year, there were 39. 2025, this year, there have been 4. That's a pretty amazing result. Burglaries. One burglary is too many. It really is. However, in 2023 there were 15.
Right. Right.
This year, there's still a lot, too many, and we're not going to rest on this. But now there are 9, so that number's cut in half.
So we always knock on wood when we talk about these statistics because we obviously, there are at any moment these things can change. But we're proud of the progress we've made for sure. And one other thing I always mention, because I think it's great and I got a dog out of it,
yes.
is the home security assessment. Our police department will come to your home and do an assessment for free. You can schedule it through the website. And it's terrific, and it's a great way actually to meet one of our officers. We have, I think, 6 certified to do these home security assessments. They will come out. They will go around the perimeter of your house and identify weaknesses. They will tell you, they will make suggestions. They're suggestions. I mean, some of them are really quick fixes, like remote censored or motion censored lights. There are things like maybe you don't have a burglar alarm. Obviously, if you have one, you need to use it, or it's not very effective. And so I did mine. It took me about a year before I scheduled it, but I scheduled it, and it was great because I lost my dog in the fall. And the very first thing that Officer Katiga said when he came into my house is, "You have a dog?" And I was like, "Oh, my dog is gone." And he said, "Well, that's actually one of the first lines of defense is to have a dog." And so I said, "Well, I'd like a new puppy, so can you put that first on the list?" Which he did. In fact, he put 2 puppies, which I did not count. But oops. And so and so things like there's if you have glass side lights in your front door, obviously there are ways to protect, because you can punch in a glass or break a glass and reach around, and there are ways to sort of thwart that as a mode of entry. So I think it's a great opportunity to get to know one of our officers briefly, and also to learn a couple of maybe easy things you could do in your own home. So
yeah, and it's free.
And it's free.
And they'll come and do it, and and they want to do it.
Right.
And they're super psyched to help people make their homes more safe.
Well, it makes their jobs easier.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, just around those big crimes, when I talk to people, there's a lot of questions about, people speeding and motor vehicle traffic and things like that. And, investing in our police and talking to them about enforcement. They've always enforced, but they have a lot of things on their plate. But, the other thing, too, is, we're issuing a lot more summonses, but like moving summonses, for instance. 2 years ago at this time, there were 640. At this time this year, there's 913. That's a 50% increase. And again, I don't like to get a ticket, but if you know that police are out there enforcing, you'll think twice about speeding. And we want everybody in town to be safe, right. and pedestrians and such, and walking, not just in the downtown, but anywhere. So that's a big part of that too. And again, that comes from making investments in our police department.
Absolutely.
So
great. All right. Please, can you designate more business tenant parking spaces? We have employees spending 15 to 30 minutes looking for a space, and we pay for parking permits. So we should discuss parking downtown in Summit, which is always a topic.
Yeah, I've always said that if your town doesn't have some sort of parking issue, your town is dying.
Something wrong.
Yeah, there's something wrong with your town. So, but for people driving around, I get it. It's frustrating. It's a really good question, and I think it's really timely because we talked about infrastructure earlier. Parking decks are infrastructure, and the tier garage is old. It's going on 45 years old, and the top deck is beginning to sadly fall apart.
Right.
And we got to do something about it. So right now, the top deck, the top 2 decks, because it's just not safe, are closed.
Right.
And we are working diligently to figure out what the plan is to either fix it, replace a floor or 2, tear the whole thing down. We're not sure. These things cost money.
They cost money.
But that being said, people need a place to park.
Right.
The good news is there is overall a lower strain on our parking than there had been pre-COVID. People are still, working from home, particularly Mondays and Fridays and things like that.
And in the summer, it tends to be a bit lighter as well, and that's pre or post COVID. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's just true.
But that being said, we have gotten inquiries that employees in particular are having an issue finding spots.
Right.
We spoke with our parking services area director, and she assures us that we have capacity.
Right.
She drives around, they drive around. There is capacity in our system. I would say, the K lot behind CVS might be a first place you might want to look. And I get it, people like to park and be right next to their place of employ.
Right.
I didn't want the parking deck to fall apart, but it is.
No, none of us wanted it to fall
Yeah.
apart. But yeah, I think that's, first of all, currently this has been something we've been talking about since the third and fourth floor of the tier garage has been closed. It's something we're actively working on, we're actively discussing. I know there's actually a meeting tomorrow to discuss it even further, to see what alternatives we can come up with. We're trying to be creative. If you have any creative thoughts or solutions, we would love to hear them. This is, a temporary situation. It's temporary. We don't know how long temporary is. We can't define that for you at the moment, but we can tell you that there are spaces available. And yes, the tier garage will be full by 9 o'clock. So if you're not here before 8:30, I would find somewhere. I would not even try there.
Yeah, don't even bother going there.
Right.
Go to a little farther outside of town. It'll save you some frustration where you're not driving around for a bit. Get a spot, walk in, grab a cup of coffee on your way to work. It's not the best. I wish I could say. I wish I could say the tier garage was going to be back up and running in September, but it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
And that's why we're having the conversations that we're having, because obviously, as we said, summer is a bit lighter of a time for parking, and Mondays and Fridays tend to be a little lighter, but we still have to resolve for Tuesdays through Thursdays. So again, we're working on creative solutions for that. The other thing I would say is there are green bags over some of the meters in town, on the sort of perimeter of town. Those are for employee parking. If you have a parking permit, you can use those bagged meters. That's exactly what they're there for. So
right, and the city, our parking services people are more than willing to help you. Like for people who don't know where the parking spots are, they'll reach out. It's on our website. All that stuff.
Just posted stuff.
And
Yeah.
and it's just our communications officer posted some information in the comments. So if you look in the comments, you'll be able to see a list of possible alternatives to the tier garage, and things that are proximate to downtown. So
Right.
Hope that is helpful there. And again, stay tuned for more information on that. It will evolve.
Yes.
So, okay. Is there any update and timeline on maybe Playground?
Yes, there is. So maybe Playground's been a project that's been in the works for several years. As most of you know, costs have gone up a lot in the last couple of years, and I guess that is true for playground equipment and things like that too, apparently. We set out a bid to do, we have a great plan for maybe Playground. It's going to be really neat when it's done.
First 100% inclusive playground in Summit. So
Yeah,
that's pretty
which
exciting.
is incredibly exciting. The bids all came back above our budgeted amount. We went back and decided let's take some things out, see if we can then finish those off like the basketball court. We'll do that next year. Bids came back again over our budget, so that's frustrating. But we go through a capital projects thing where we have an amount of money allocated for this. We can't allocate more until we have a new capital budget probably next year. But what we can do is, because we have had the bids get reject or come back over our limit twice, this contract and government bidding laws allow us now to engage directly with these builders. And so we're very hopeful now if we can get and start to talk around, we can really figure out the things that we can do with the amount of money that we have available for it. So stay tuned on that, but we're still very, very hopeful that we can get some sort of thing with maybe being, really people there with shovels and digging and fixing it up sometime in the fall. That's still our goal. And we're, like I said, the plan is awesome. We've just got to go through this and deal with the fact that prices are up, and but we are fully committed to making that plan a reality. So if that means we have to go back to the drawing board next year, we will.
Great, thank you. Okay, I have seen a city employee with a political banner flag on the back of their car, which is visible when I use city services. Can the city instead this employee, hold on, that's not, sorry, I'm just reading this. I guess ask this employee to park their car further out of sight so it does not appear that the city is providing free advertising for the person noted on the banner.
Okay, good question.
Since you're a history teacher, I'm going to let you take this one. Well,
I think this actually falls under my AP government class a little more than history. But
okay.
We did get this. I think we had I don't know if it's the same inquiry or a separate one a month or so ago, and we talked to our city solicitor about what, if anything, we could do about this, or even if we should. And it came back very, very strongly, and I'm not surprised that this is a free speech issue. People can put whatever stickers and things that they want on their car, and and that includes employees of the city. We can't dictate what they can put in their car, and I would hope people would realize no one would want us to have that ability to dictate what you can put in your car. So I get it that some people may disagree with some of the things that people say or post, but it really is a free speech thing. I think as the follow-up, can we ask employees to park their car further out of sight so that it does not appear? Again, that's impeding their free speech. I mean, that just is. You have to draw a line around these things. And we either accept speech, we may not agree with all of it, but, I wouldn't want people telling me where I can and can't park because of a bumper sticker or something that I have. And I don't think anybody would. Anybody would. So that's the society we live in, and I'm actually happy we live in that society, to be honest with you.
Agreed. It affords us a lot of freedoms that we otherwise would not have. So.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love the city's temporary dog park at Memorial Field. I understand it will move to the Village Green next. What is the plan for a permanent installation, and when would it happen, and how do we decide where it's located?
Love the question.
I love the question.
Our furry residents of Summit. It's awesome.
Did I mention I got a puppy?
You did mention you have a puppy. I have 2 dogs.
You do.
So I'm so psyched that we had a call today, and it seems like the feedback on the Memorial Playground is nothing but positive. People really love it. It's just great, and people love dogs. It's really, really neat. It is going to move to the Village Green next. We have some flexibility on when the right time to dismantle the Memorial one is and move the Village Green. As everyone knows, we got a lot of stuff that goes on the Village Green, right? Including, I think, what's the big thing?
National Night Out, which is the beginning of August.
Beginning of August. So I think the idea would be we'd set up the Village Green one after National Night Out. So probably sometime the first week or so of August we would do it. There is no this was a test.
Yeah.
Right? We wanted to see what the community reaction would be. And like I said, so far, incredibly positive, which is awesome. Yeah. If you haven't had a chance to bring your dogs to Memorial, or if you want to wait to the Village Green, do that. My wife frequents the transfer station with our dogs. She says it's great. Nobody goes.
Well, that was kind of what prompted the conversation about one that was more centrally located.
Right.
And more accessible.
And so much more accessible. Right. So it's a great idea. Look, if the feedback continues to be super, super positive, I think, discussions will be had to make make it permanent in one or both of the spots. Doing that will cost some money.
It will.
Right? So if we were to do that, that would go into our budgeting process for next year with all that stuff that entails. But I think if the feedback remains the way it is, I think residents should be pretty hopeful that we'll have a new place for our furry friends to frolic at some stage.
I love it.
Yeah.
The other things that have come in, some of the feedback has been people really like the grass. If we do have a permanent solution there, will it remain grass? And I think the answer probably is something like, sure, it will be grass until the dogs destroy it. Yes. But yeah, that's the. I think that's the intention. And then one other comment or question that I think we've gotten a few times that I thought we could address is, if it is if we end up doing something permanently, would we consider doing a small dog portion and a larger dog portion? And that's something that has come. I think we've had several comments or questions about that. And the answer is we would certainly consider it. I think it's a question of having enough space to do that. I think most dog parks do that, and I think there are reasons for that. So, right. I think that's obviously something that would be considered as part of a more permanent situation.
Right, and my understanding is just at first blush, without really digging in, that's feedback that I think we could incorporate.
Sure.
But they'd have to, get the pencils out and stuff
Correct.
like that. So.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so there was something else I was going to say about the dogs, but I can't remember.
So when we move it, so the Village Green one, our thought would be to be open for a few weeks as well.
Yes,
So again,
exactly.
Try and use it this summer and such, and get feedback to us.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah. There are QR codes on the gate at the current location at Memorial Field, so you can scan a QR code and it'll give you a Google survey, a Google form that you can fill out. You can alternatively email our communications department. You can email me. I'm sure Council President would be happy to hear from you as well. So if you can't make this QR code work, or you don't really, or that you feel like there's something else you'd like to offer that wasn't included in the questions we were asking, certainly feel free to reach out. We're open to suggestion and thoughts. That was the whole point of this.
Right.
We're trying to collect enough data that we feel comfortable with whatever the decision is.
Correct.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see. Here's another one we talk about an awful lot. What is the plan for the field house at Tatlock, and what is the timeline for doing renovation?
All right, another good question. Just as some background for people who on our video who might not be aware, the field house at Tatlock has been something that councils for 8 or 9 years. It's been thrown out on a capital plan as we need to fix the field house, and it's always been, well, we'll do it next year. We'll do it next year. We'll do it next year. For those who are aware, that caught up to that type of budgeting, kind of caught up to the city because the roof started leaking. There was mold. There was all sorts of remediation in there, so that the field house became a mess.
Yes.
And it needs major repair. So the city has worked with the Board of Ed around and about responsibilities on all this because it is
complicated.
It is complicated. The city owns the property, but the Board of Ed uses it for their sports programs, particularly football and lacrosse. And there is now a plan to fix it. There's been a lot of engagement back and forth. The Board of Ed has the money. There's been engagement around how long this process is going to take. The original idea was 18 months, something like that?
Yes. Yeah.
But my understanding, there's been discussions where it's shorter now?
Yeah, that's the hope. That's what the contractor has said, is that it should take about 6 to 8 months total. I think it was eight start to finish. So the hope is that we will have the football locker room as is for the fall, and then after the fall season ends, they can begin construction, and they will be able to do enough construction in one portion of the existing building to create a space for the spring sports that use the locker room currently, the men's lacrosse team, which uses the field house currently. They will create a space that will be a brand new renovated space by the spring season, and then they will complete construction hopefully by next summer. So, which will be really exciting.
And just so if you're worried, the building has been remediated.
Yes.
So they've gotten rid of the mold and all that kind of stuff, but it still needs a major uphauling. Like they're basically, patched up the roof and things like that. So it is safe. It's got the Department of Health has checked it out and such. So the football people will be able to use it. It's not going to be as nice as it'll be the following year, but that is the plan for the field house.
And I want to mention one other thing. I want to go back to sort of actually a couple of years ago, the bond that the school board bonded a couple of years ago for, I think it's like $34 or $37 million, which was inclusive of all of the renovations that have happened at the middle school and the high school,
right.
The turf field at Lower High School, and the field house was a portion of that bond. So yes, the renovation of the field house has been put off, but it's been put off in part most recently because there was intention to actually do renovations on it anyway. So we're finally getting to a place where we can actually do that. It's exciting. I will say, I think the first time I was ever in that building was, it's probably been 10 or 12 years. And even then I was like, oh, I'm not sure I want my kids in here. So it will be a much needed and very welcome renovation when it's finished.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
So. All right, there are some questions coming in as well, which we may not have, I'm sorry, I keep dropping things. We may not have answers to, but I'm going to try.
Let's give it a go.
I didn't get my pet license this year, and I got a summons. It seems like I'm the only one amongst my neighbors. It feels like I'm the only law-abiding one, and doesn't seem fair. How is this enforced? So, I'm not exactly sure how it's enforced. Is sort of where I got stuck. I think this is a great question for our Board of Health office, our Health and Vital Statistics office, which is located in City Hall. They're super helpful. They do our cat and dog licenses. Again, I'm not sure exactly how it's enforced. It may be that if you had actually this is likely, you had a dog license previously for a pet and you didn't renew it, that would be enforceable, because if you never licensed your pet, we wouldn't know of its existence. If your pet passes away, or you rehome the pet, or any number of reasons why the pet doesn't live at your residence for any longer, then you need to notify the Board of Health. You need to notify the office so they can take your pet out of the system. So if that's the case here, which I suspect it is because you mentioned you were a law-abiding citizen, so probably you have always licensed your dog and missed this year. That would be my supposition. I'm not positive, but the best place to get that directly answered is actually through our Board of Health and through the Health and Vital Statistics office right here in City Hall. Yeah,
and they're right down there as you're walking in. It's a good question. I would say if you ever, God forbid, lose your, or if your pet runs off and stuff, you want your dog to be licensed. Right. It helps to identify them, obviously, if someone picks them up or what have you. So, make the effort. But again, and from an enforcement perspective, I'm not sure. I do not know.
I'm guessing, but I think that's the likely answer is that it's, we only know of the pets that have been registered in the first place, frankly. And it is an obligation. You should really register your pet. And it's protective for you as well. Heaven forbid, they get loose and they bite somebody, or they, it's protective, because one of the components of dog licensing in particular is they must be rabies vaccinated. Right. So that's kind of an important piece. Mm-hmm. Hold on, I'm getting other questions here. Okay, Mike, you're gonna love this one.
Bring it. Let's go.
Can you go into the recent heated discussion regarding affordable housing between Mr. McTernan and Ms. Cowanson?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, council people have, people have different views. It would be a really boring world if we all had the same view on things. And council people should be able to have different views. That's why they get elected, and they're there to bring their own experience and such to best serve the citizens of Summit. So we're not going to agree on everything all the time. But that being said, it's okay to say why you disagree around things. The people want to know that, and look, sometimes you can get you hope that sometimes people change their mind, but or you can have your own mind changed. So discussions on the dais, I don't know if people really realize the only time that council can have a full-blown discussion is on the dais. We can't have meetings, off on our own without people there.
Right.
So so sometimes disagreements are going to come out, and that's healthy for governance. So
I
there's
think part of the discussion that that's being referred to is frankly you're held accountable to how you vote and your commentary. And sometimes commentary, and this is not particular to that discussion, but sometimes commentary on the dais can jeopardize the city's position on things too. So, and I'm not saying actually that I don't think that's particular to that question, but I think that people need to also understand that we're privy as elected officials to conversations, and sometimes they're not supposed to be publicly discussed because they are part of a negotiation or part of a legal discussion or whatever. And it's hard to keep it all straight, frankly, because you learn a lot of things. And it's not to be deceitful; it's to be protective of the city's interests, and that is our job.
Exactly.
So.
And look, just that discussion between myself and Councilwoman Camelson, we agree on 95+% of everything. She does a wonderful job representing her constituents. She takes her job very, very seriously. But again, that doesn't mean we're going to have to agree on everything. And, she tells me when I'm wrong sometimes too. And I am wrong sometimes. And I want to hear feedback and such. So that's just part of the dynamics of governing. And again, you just do the best you can. And whether everyone agrees with you or not, sometimes it doesn't happen. And you have to have, look, you get it from the audience. Sometimes you get it from fellow council people sometimes, and that's kind of part of it. But never from the mayor. Never from the mayor. Never from the mayor. So there you go.
One more question came in. This is somebody who lives adjacent to the new high school field. They love the field, but they are very concerned because there are balls flying over into their property, and they're fearful that their window might break. What should they do?
So this is the lower high school field.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Must be. So that is Board of Ed property.
Yeah, but
I think certainly I would say reach out to us, but also reach out to the Board of Education office and just mention your concerns. And by reaching out to us, I mean sending an email or giving us a phone call, and we can try to identify if there's a lapse in the netting or the fencing or whatever. Maybe the fence needs to be higher, maybe there needs to be netting above the fence. I don't know exactly where we're talking about, but certainly if there are balls flying into property where people are walking and people are living, we need to work on that, because I'm sure there are field hockey balls and lacrosse balls, and not just soccer balls. Soccer balls probably won't break a window, but field hockey balls and lacrosse balls definitely will.
Yeah, and if there's like a pattern to that,
sure.
The coaches can change their practice structures and such like that. To help mitigate that, and if there's real issues, there's always netting that can be done. But if you do have those issues, like I said, talk to us, talk to the school, and certainly we'll forward
Yes.
those concerns over as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Or are we?
Is that it?
I think we're almost out of time.
Yeah, what was that at 9
Wow.
minutes?
What do we got? I don't even know what to respond to that question.
You know,
There was a question about saying, I guess someone wants to know the difference between me being appointed versus other council people being elected. And so
may I interject? Just,
You-
I would like to
you
say,
can.
I would like to say my piece on that, which is to say that indeed you have been elected, not once but twice.
that is true. Mhm.
And I think you're doing a great service, and you were very much welcomed with open arms by every council person that sat when you were appointed to replace somebody who had to leave council last fall. And that includes two people that were predecessors that were elected last fall. But you were appointed because the rules are the way they are, and there was a vacancy, and the timing was such that you were appointed. And you were appointed based upon collaboration between both parties, if we have to go to partisan politics. But you were very much welcomed with open arms. I don't remember which council meeting it was. I think it was sometime in September. Is that right?
So, yeah, a year ago, September.
And there
yeah.
were very kind words.
My wife can tell you the exact date.
Okay, I'm sure because your life ended then. That you were very much welcomed with open arms, and there were a lot of kind words about your mentorship and your leadership style, and the fact that you are very even tempered, and that was a really great asset to the council at the time. So I do want to make that comment.
Well, thank you for saying that. And it's just been a pleasure to serve on the council again. It's a lot of work.
Yes, indeed.
But it was, when I was asked, it was very, very hard to figure out a real reason not to say, okay, I have some experience and it sounds like they would like me to come back on, and I love this town, so it's hard to say no. And I loved working with every single person on council, as well as our awesome city staff.
Yes.
They've been great. Just when I think they can't get better, they always do.
They work really hard.
And they work super, super hard. So being an elected official is tough, but a lot of people in the community don't see all the hard work that our city staff does behind the scenes, and they're awesome.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So I think that concludes all of the questions. So I just want to echo one thing you just mentioned, Mike, which is I love this town, and I think that the people probably that are watching this love this town as much as we do. So thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
I hope thank you for your questions. Thank you for your engagement. I think that's one of the things that makes our city so special. And we will continue to work hard for you. Please reach out with questions. You can always find us. We're always willing to take a meeting. And join us again for our next Facebook Q&A.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being
It's been
here.
great. Yep. Take care, guys.
Bye.